Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Jared Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Jocelyn Blowfield. We warmly welcome Sharon Bowen, representing the Air Force Association, and Wing Commander Michael Garside, Australian War Memorial Air Force Fellow. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Malcolm John McLeod. Malcolm McLeod was born on the 1st of May 1921 in Ardlethan, New South Wales, the son of Peter and Annie McLeod. Growing up, he had 3 sisters, Maureen, Elsie and Myra. After leaving school, Malcolm worked as a shop assistant and a farmhand. On the 5th of February 1940, aged 18, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He was initially attached to No. 11 Squadron, RAAF, in Port Moresby, which monitored Japanese shipping movements. He trained as an air gunner and on receiving his badge in November 1942, was commissioned as a pilot officer. On the 15th of January 1943, McLeod embarked from Melbourne, bound for the United Kingdom. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,000 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, gunners and engineers who joined Australian and British squadrons in Britain throughout the course of the war. Further specialist training followed in England, and in May 1943, McLeod was promoted to flying officer. In October, he was posted to No. 467 Squadron, RAAF, and flew 5 operations over Europe. The next month, he joined No. 463 Squadron. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. In 1943, McLeod married a woman named Marcel in Weymouth, and in February 1944, a daughter, Jacqueline, was born to the couple. On the night of the 4th of July 1944, Bomber Command launched a major raid on German flying bomb installations in the limestone caverns and quarries of Saint-Lô-Desert in France. The plan was to collapse the roofs of the caverns and disrupt surrounding roads and train tracks. Flying Officer McLeod was the mid-under gunner on board Lancaster JOK, which took off from the Royal Air Force Base at Waddington shortly after 11 p.m. Of the 15 aircraft committed to the mission by No. 463 Squadron, 2 failed to return, including McLeod's Lancaster. German night fighter resistance was heavy around the target and the aircraft was shot down. It crashed near Lyon-Foret, some 80 kilometres west of the target. There were no survivors. Killed in the crash with Flying Officer Malcolm McLeod were fellow Australian flying officers Noel Webb, Arthur Connor and Ernest Fletcher, Warrant Officer Launcelot Harrison and Flight Sergeants Archie Gillett and Patrick Dunford, along with British Sergeant Thomas Hendry. The bodies of 7 of the crew were recovered from the crash site and buried at the RSL French National Cemetery in Beauvais. The 8th crew member was never found. After the war, the remains of Commonwealth servicemen buried in Europe were examined and identified where possible. 4 of the crew of Lancaster JOK were identified, including Malcolm McLeod. His remains were buried beside those of his crewmates, where they rest today, under the inscription chosen by his grieving wife, "My beloved husband, his duty notably done." He was 23 years old. Flying Officer Malcolm McLeod's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Malcolm John McLeod, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.